Hey there, internet friends. Trevor Starkey here for this week's Wrestling Wednesday, asking, won't somebody please hinder the Jinder? So a few years ago, while I was out in the wilderness not watching wrestling, the theater company that I frequently worked with, a company in town called Stray Cat Theater, did a production of a play called The Elaborate Entrance of Chad Deity. The Elaborate Entrance of Chad Deity was basically a story about race relations in the United States as told through the lens of professional wrestling. The show is basically set in the world of THE wrestling. Now, one of the main characters of The Elaborate Entrance of Chad Deity is a Brooklyn kid of Indian descent named Vigneshwar Pajwar. No wrestling experience, but he's great on the mic. He's a great fast talker. And one of the guys who's playing one of the big jobbers, he's kind of our main protagonist in the story, he brings in Pajwar for his mic skills, and he's like, I can do the work, and this guy can be my manager because he's bad on the mic. The Vince McMahon type character in this play sees the Indian descent, says, I'm gonna make this guy the fundamentalist. Doesn't let him talk, makes him just completely, he just has gimmicks where he's just spitting on like the American flag and stuff like that. And they give the fundamentalist a move, the sleeper cell kick, which is basically like a sweet chin music type of move that just knocks out their opponents. And throughout the show, they touch on the real-life case of Muhammad Hassan and the very Islamophobic, racially tinted push that they gave that character and how badly it went for everybody involved. And that's pretty much all I can think about when we look at Jinder Mahal winning the WWE Championship. Now, as I think I touched on last week, I really just got back into it around WrestleMania this year. So I've really only been watching for about 2 months, not even 2 months yet. But in that time, Jinder Mahal went from being a joke, low mid-card player, if the mid-card, and losing his feud with Mojo Rawley in that, to immediately being given basically the keys to the castle. And really, that's one of my problems with this whole thing, is that they just didn't give the story or the character a proper build. If they'd paced out over the course of 6 months, working him up, and suddenly he was just this kind of unstoppable juggernaut, and fighting his way through the mid-card, into the upper mid-card, and finally the top-tier talent, I think that's how you get more buy-in. The other problem I have with Jinder being crowned the champion, and all of this push being so suddenly, is that they just gave him the same tired old gimmick that we've seen time and time again for any kind of foreign performer or like other looking character. Going back to characters like Muhammad Hassan, he's just every stereotypical foreigner who hates America because America hates foreigners. And at this moment in American politics, that's not what I wanted to tune into wrestling for. I picked a terrible time to get into this thing again, didn't I? You've got a vacant champion sitting at the top of the Raw brand, and Lesnar showing up, probably a half dozen times throughout the next year to do this whole stupid championship reign, I'm sure. And then now on the SmackDown side of things, you've got a very cynical cash grab trying to capitalize on the realization that, hey, the Indian market loves the WWE. We've got a guy of Indian descent, even though he was born in Canada. Let's go ahead and give him this push out of nowhere and try and sell as much merchandise as fast as they can to the market of the Indian wrestling fan. It could have been really cool if they gave him a face push, or really just any other storyline than this thing we've seen time and time again with pretty much every non-white character with an accent that gets thrown into the WWE. This is the kind of stuff that they were pulling back when I left and back when I stopped watching. This was the kind of stuff they were pulling with like Sergeant Slaughter's turn in the 80s, making it all about xenophobia. It's not good storytelling. It's not interesting storytelling. It's just trite. And it's the storyline we always get where we're eventually going to get a face that comes out and says, I don't hate you because you're Indian. I hate you because you're a jackass and you always cheat to win. It's disappointing to see, no matter how much things change, some things have clearly stayed the same. And I don't think he's going to have a long reign. I think we're going to get to Money in the Bank or something, and then one of the people in there, AJ Styles or Sami Zayn or somebody, is going to take the prize and maybe even cash it in the same night and knock Jinder out after like a rematch with Orton or something like that. So at that point, the question becomes why? Why put the belt on him? Why is he suddenly worthy of having this belt bestowed upon him by the storytellers? And the only reason I can find is the Indian market that's really interested in wrestling. They're going to try and sell as many shirts and action figures and whatever other merch they can for the next couple months. And then they're going to move on to somebody who can cut better promos or can perform better in the ring, or both. And this will be just a weird little blotch in history. And I came back just in time to see it happen. Yay! So those are my thoughts on this week in wrestling. I really wanted to kind of keep it focused on the Jinder Mahal, as that's the big news of the week, obviously. Raw was fine. I'm interested to see. It looks like they're going to make Finn Balor kind of the stand out above the crowd of this fatal five-way thing that they're doing at the upcoming Extreme Rules pay-per-view. SmackDown's going to be a Jinder Mahal-led SmackDown for at least the time being, so we'll see how far that goes. And in both brands, I have zero interest in the top of the card at this point and the top title. I'm much more intrigued in what's going on at the Intercontinental level or the U.S. Championship level, and that's weird that the top most prestigious belts are on what appears to be a paper champion and no-show champion, and they're getting away with it, so that sucks. Anyway, what did you think about Backlash and Juicy Jinder taking the title? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I'm your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.